What happens when one of the world's most polarizing royals goes head-to-head with America's most trusted morning host, and the polite small talk dissolves into a clash that leaves millions stunned? This wasn't just another CBS Morning interview. It was Prince Harry versus Gayle King. What began polished and professional quickly unraveled into sharp edges, raw tension, and a showdown no one saw coming. The studio glowed in familiar orange and blue, cameras poised, crew gliding in quiet rhythm. For Gayle, this was routine. A high-profile guest, the kind she'd guided through conversations for decades, with a mix of warmth and steel. But this guest wasn't routine. Across from her sat Prince Harry, royal exile, global celebrity, lightning rod of controversy. He arrived in a dark navy suit, tieless, beard trimmed to precision. His composure read as confidence, or arrogance, as he leaned back in the chair, nodding faintly at the polite applause of the hand-picked audience. Gayle opened with grace. "Good morning, and thank you so much for being here, Prince Harry. We're honored to have you." Harry gave a half smile. "Well, I figured you could use the ratings." The chuckle from the audience was nervous, but the edge was unmistakable. Gayle's smile held steady, though she clocked it instantly. She had expected charm. What she got was sarcasm. Her tone didn't waver. "We do just fine, but we're glad to have you. You've spoken a lot about building a new life in California, about independence. How has that transition been for your family?" Harry's arms crossed. His mouth curled. "How has it been? Exactly what I wanted. Sunshine, space, people leaving me alone. Well, until journalists like you start poking around again." The sting was deliberate. The air in the room shifted. Gayle's composure stayed flawless. "Of course, the public has always been curious about your story. That comes with the territory." Harry rolled his eyes. "Ah, the territory. The so-called privilege of being born into a cage. People think I should be grateful, but most wouldn't survive a week in my shoes." The studio stilled. Viewers watching at home could already sense the direction this was headed. Gayle pressed on carefully. "You've mentioned your background. Many admired your mother, Princess Diana. They see her legacy in you. How do you feel about carrying that forward?" For a moment, Harry's jaw tightened. Then came the smirk. "Here we go. The Diana question. Every time. With all due respect, Gayle, I don't need to be reminded of my mother to validate who I am. She's not a soundbite for your morning show." The soft gasp from the audience was audible. Gayle steadied her voice. "I didn't mean to reduce her. I only wanted to ask how you reflect on her influence." Harry shrugged theatrically. "Influence? My mother would have told me to get out. And I did. End of story. But of course, you'd rather I wax poetic so your viewers can cry over their morning coffee." The arrogance was unmistakable now. Gayle leaned forward, eyes sharper. "All right, let's bring this to the present. You've spoken openly about your relationship with Meghan. How are things now?" Harry's expression shifted. Narrowed eyes, tight lips. But his reply was quick. "Things are fine. Perfect, in fact. And before you try, you won't get any juicy gossip from me. Meghan and I are solid. Don't waste your time fishing for cracks." The audience murmured uneasily at his clipped tone. Gayle's smile held, but her patience was tested. "I wasn't fishing. I was asking what your supporters are curious about. You and Meghan have been through a lot in the public eye." Harry waved it away. "Supporters, critics, same thing. Everyone wants a piece. But Meghan's stronger than all of them. Stronger than you, stronger than your colleagues, stronger than anyone sitting in judgment." The jab landed. Gayle absorbed it with poise, nodding lightly. "I can see she means a great deal to you." And then Harry leaned forward, voice carrying that sharp edge of defiance that had defined the entire exchange. "She means more than your headlines, more than your ratings, more than the tired questions you've rehearsed." Harry said flatly. "So let's not pretend this is about concern." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the camera crew hesitated, uncertain if they were witnessing a heated performance or the unraveling of something real. Gayle adjusted her glasses, her tone calm but edged with steel. Harry, I can assure you, my questions are asked with respect, always. But you are in a unique position, and viewers are deeply invested in your story. Harry's smirk cut through the tension. My story? My story belongs to me. Not the palace, not Meghan, not you. And if people don't like it, too bad. I didn't come here to play a game. Gayle held his gaze, her composure unshaken, but she could feel the interview slipping. This was no longer about conversation. It was about control. The studio lights glowed steady, yet the air was thick with weight. The polished rhythm of the broadcast had fractured. Across from her, Harry leaned back, arms folded, legs crossed, the smirk never leaving his face. It wasn't comfort. It was defiance. Gayle pressed forward carefully. In your book, Spare, you gave an unprecedented glimpse into your life, your struggles with the institution, your relationships with family. Some praised your honesty, others thought it went too far. Looking back now, do you regret anything you shared? Harry gave a low, humorless laugh. Regrets? No, not one. Every word needed to be said. If the truth makes people uncomfortable, that's their problem, not mine. And let's be clear, the loudest critics have never lived a day in my world. Gayle nodded slightly. Still, many felt it revealed intimate moments with your father and brother. Details, some argue, should have remained private. Harry tilted his head, eyes narrowing. Private? Nothing about my life has ever been private. From the moment I was born, it was consumed, sold, dissected by people like you. And now I'm supposed to protect their privacy? My father, my brother, they never protected mine. The audience shifted, uneasy. Gayle stayed steady. When you described physical altercations with your brother, or your father's choices, some saw it as airing grievances, not healing them. Do you think those details help the situation, or... Harry cut her off with a sharp laugh. Healing? Do you honestly think William or my father have ever wanted healing? Let me make this crystal clear. I don't owe them silence. If my brother shoves me into a dog bowl, people deserve to know. If my father chooses the crown over his son, people deserve to know. That's not betrayal. That's survival. The words landed like a thunderclap. The audience murmured, unsettled. Gayle adjusted her glasses again, her voice even. Survival matters, yes, but some would say survival can still leave space for compassion. Do you feel you've left room for reconciliation? Harry leaned forward suddenly, his tone sharp as a blade. Why is reconciliation always my job? Why am I the one told to show compassion? Where was the compassion for me, for Meghan, for our children? You want reconciliation? Ask my brother why he sold me out. Ask my father why he let the press destroy my wife. Don't sit there and suggest I'm the one clinging to grudges. The room was frozen. Gayle let a beat pass before softening. Then let's talk about Meghan. You've both faced immense scrutiny and pressure. How is your relationship now after everything? Harry's face hardened. His words came like stone. My relationship with Meghan is strong. Stronger than anything you could imagine. And before you even try. No, you're not getting a headline about cracks or troubles. We're fine. Better than fine. If that's your angle, Gayle, move on. It was the second time he accused her of fishing for gossip. The audience could feel it now. The interview wasn't just tense. It was volatile. Gayle drew a slow breath, patient steady though her jaw tightened. I wasn't suggesting anything negative, Harry. But the public often wonders how couples withstand that kind of pressure. Harry snapped. The public, always the public. Let me be perfectly clear, Gayle. Meghan and I don't exist to supply soap opera fodder. You won't see us bickering in supermarket aisles for your viewers' entertainment. We're not a storyline for you to milk, the audience gasped softly. Gayle's expression remained calm, though her voice edged sharper. I understand. But as public figures, questions about your marriage, your work, your family, those do come with the territory. Harry leaned back, smirk intact. The territory. Convenient excuse for endless intrusion. Do you realize how arrogant that sounds? To assume I owe you or anyone updates on my marriage? You're not entitled to it, Gayle. None of you are. The air in the studio seemed hotter, heavier. Gayle, posture straight, shifted course. All right, let's bring it back to the monarchy itself. You've said many times you stepped back to find freedom, yet you still use the title. You still profit from the connection. How do you respond to critics who say you left, but never really left? The spark hit. Harry's smirk vanished, irritation flashing in its place. Critics. Always critics. People love to accuse me of cashing in. But what else do they expect? I was born into a system I never chose. I left it. I built a life outside of it. If I write a book or sign a deal, that's on me. Their jealousy isn't my problem. And as for the title, what do you want me to do? Toss it in the bin. It's mine, whether they like it or not. His words dripped with disdain, brushing off accountability. Gayle set her papers down gently, her voice calm but edged with steel. Harry, with respect, many would say you've positioned yourself as both victim and beneficiary of the royal institution. You speak about escaping the system, but you've also used it to your advantage. Harry scoffed, loud and dismissive. Here we go, the lecture. Let me save you the trouble, Gayle. I don't care. Not about critics, not about headlines, not about your judgment. You don't understand what it's like to live in that family. So don't pretend you do. The audience stirred uneasily. Gayle's patience was thinning, her lips tight though her posture stayed composed. The moment was coming. The one where she'd stop letting the arrogance slide. And Harry, she said at last. He looked almost amused, daring her to push back. The studio seemed to hold its breath. Cameras hummed. A boom mic crept closer. The audience was silent in a way that wasn't silence at all, but anticipation. Gayle didn't reach for her notes. She folded her hands instead, the quiet authority of a teacher deciding whether to let a student bury himself or reclaim the room. Let me ask another way, she said, her voice velvet wrapped in steel. You've said you left to protect your family's peace, yet your tone today doesn't sound peaceful. It sounds combative. What changed? Harry's smirk returned. Practiced. Lopsided. What changed is that I'm tired of people like you pretending you're neutral while asking weaponized questions. You don't want conversation, Gayle. You want confession. Gayle's gaze held steady. I want clarity. You want clips. He shot back. You want me to hand you your headline. Somewhere in the back row, a nervous laugh escaped and was swallowed instantly. All right, Gayle said, leaning in slightly. Clarity, then. You say you want nothing to do with the firm. Yet you trademark brands built on royal titles. You document your past for streaming deals. You publish a memoir that dissects the institution. So, when does the leaving begin? Harry tilted his head, irritation flashing again. When people who never endured my childhood stop demanding I erase it, just to make them comfortable. Surviving it, Gayle repeated, her tone calm as a metronome. Or monetizing it. A low ripple ran through the audience. Harry's eyes sharpened. You don't get to put a price on my pain. You didn't live it. And the people you wrote about didn't consent to you setting their price either. Gayle replied softly. Yet here we are. Harry let out a humorless bark of laughter. Consent? That's rich. Coming from a press that ran my life by committee. Spare me. Gayle drew in a breath, placed her palms flat on the table, open, steady, grounding. Let's talk specifics. Your brother, your father. Do you want reconciliation? Harry's shrug was almost theatrical. If they want to act like family instead of board members, sure. But I'm not chasing them down to be blamed for their choices. That era is over. Do you see how that might read as arrogant? Gayle asked evenly. To people who think you burned your family on a book tour? He leaned forward, eyes sharp with challenge. Do you see how your question reads as sanctimonious? From someone who's never had to choose between truth and a gilded lie? Gayle didn't blink. Plenty of people choose truth every day, without a ghostwriter, Harry. The words fell clean, stripped of ornament. The audience reacted like a flock startled into flight. An audible gasp, then stillness. Harry sat back, jaw set. So that's what this is. The disappointed act. We expected more from you, Harry. What I expected, Gayle said, her tone even but unyielding, was less contempt for the questions and more respect for the people who buy your book, stream your shows, and still want to understand the person behind the product. My life isn't a product, he shot back. Everything about today says otherwise. She returned, not unkindly. He scoffed. You really do love the sound of your own morality. Her hands lifted from the table, folding neatly together again. Deliberate, decisive. Harry, I've been doing this a long time. Presidents, survivors, whistleblowers, celebrities. I've interviewed them all. I have patience for discomfort. I do not have patience for disdain. You came here knowing you'd be accountable for your words. I'm holding you to that. Accountable to what? Your network? His laugh scraped. You're not my head mistress. No, Gayle said, her voice shifting, firmness hardening into boundary. But this is my studio. Not your palace, not your press pen, not your confessional booth. And in here, you're not a prince. You're a guest. We can have a conversation like adults, or we can end it now. The words landed with a thud. A camera creaked. Harry's gaze flicked to the audience, then back. Something raw glinting under his glare. So that's the threat. Obey the host or lose the platform. It's not a threat, Gayle replied. It's a reminder. You've been swinging at questions instead of answering them, belittling motives you don't get to judge. Every time I bring up responsibility, you raise the drawbridge of grievance. I'm asking you to lower it. His jaw clenched. You have no idea what it's like to carry your mother's funeral behind your eyes while cameras count your tears. My friend, Gayle said softly, I know what grief looks like. I also know what weaponized grief sounds like. They're not the same. The air shifted, like a stage changing sets. For a heartbeat, Harry looked younger, a boy fighting a war he didn't start. Then the mask slid back. Fine, what do you want? A soundbite about William? My father? You want me to say sorry so America can clip it for TikTok and call it growth? I want honesty without contempt, Gayle said. Start there. Silence stretched, nearly an answer. Then Harry's mouth curled. Honesty? All right. My brother is a polished mask stapled to duty. My father clutches the crown tighter whenever the people closest to him bleed. And your industry, since you love honesty, feeds on that blood-like breakfast. There. Clarity. Gayle's expression stayed calm, but the air thinned. And you, Harry? What do you worship? I worship keeping my wife and children safe. And your anger? He smiled coldly. My anger pays for security. Gayle absorbed it, nodding once. That may be the truest thing you've said today, he bristled. You want more? I wrote the book to tell the truth. I did the series to control the narrative for once. I left because staying meant burying myself alive for a country that prefers its princes mute. Good, Gayle said. Now try saying it without sneering at the people listening. Harry's grip tightened on the chair arm. You love that word, sneer. Maybe you're mistaking refusal for rudeness. I'm not, Gayle said softly. Rudeness is implying I'm here to collect gossip when I've asked nothing you haven't already sold. It's dismissing questions pulled from your own pages as tabloid fluff. It's brushing off an audience that has shown you more grace today than you've offered anyone. That's rudeness. Applause broke out, scattered at first, then steady, the sound of a room voting with its hands. Harry's eyes flashed, angered by the crowd's betrayal. He let it pass, nostrils flaring. Gayle didn't press. She pivoted. Let's try Megan again, she said gently. Not as a headline, as a human being who shares your life. How has she made you better? Harry opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes dropped, then rose. When he spoke, it was quieter, less armored. She reminded me I'm not the institution's property. She made home a verb, not a place. And she refuses to let me disappear into duty or rage. The audience exhaled in one long thread of relief. Gayle gave him a small nod. "Thank you." He stiffened again, defensive. "Don't turn her into my handler. That's your press's favorite trick." "I didn't," Gayle said. "I asked how love changed you. You answered. That's what this could have been." His jaw flexed, pride reflexive. "You keep trying to teach me a lesson." "I keep trying to find the man behind the grievance," she replied. "You keep handing me the crown. A beat. 2. Then Harry leaned forward, elbows on his knees, predator's posture returning. "Go on, say it. You've wanted to all show. Tell me I'm not a prince here." Her lips curved into the faintest, saddest smile. "You're not a prince here, Harry." The line. The frame. The boundary. The audience didn't clap this time. They knew better. Harry let out a single hard laugh. "Right, civics lesson over. What's next? Ask if I embellished military details? If the frostbite story was too much? If I regret mentioning drugs, therapy, the lot?" Gayle's voice anchored the moment, steady as steel. "No. I'm going to ask if you want to be understood more than you want to be right." Harry blinked. The hit was clear. For a moment, his shoulders loosened. Gayle's tone warmed, almost a path forward. Then, a producer coughed. The moment snapped. Harry seized it like an escape. "Do you always do this?" he asked, mocking again. "Drag a confession to the water, see if it drinks?" "Do you always stop yourself?" Gayle countered. "The second you're about to say something real." A crackle rolled through the audience. Harry's nostrils flared. Abruptly, he stood, chair scraping hard against the floor. The front row flinched. "Harry," Gayle said, calm but firm. "Sit." He stayed standing, studio lights cutting a corona over his shoulders. "I think we're done." Gayle rose too, steady, unafraid. "We're not finished until the segment ends. That's not royal protocol. That's television. Sit." The silence thickened. A floor manager raised his hand, then lowered it. No one moved. Gayle's voice dropped, velvet turning iron. "Harry, sit. We'll close properly, or you can walk, and let that say what it says." He hesitated. Then, thud, he sat, heavy and grudging. The audience breathed out in relief. "Thank you," Gayle said, reclaiming the air with practiced calm. "We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll talk about service. The work you say matters most. And whether any of this," she gestured between them, "helps it." Harry didn't answer. He stared into the middle distance, lips pressed flat. The red tally light blinked off. Studio sound dulled to off-air quiet. A PA appeared with water. Another adjusted cables at Gayle's chair. No one spoke to Harry. Nobody had to say it. The next 5 minutes would decide everything. Whether he stayed in the chair or walked out for good. The storm hadn't passed. It had only shifted shade. The cameras cut back from commercial, but the air in the studio felt changed, heavier, as if everyone knew the floor might crack open beneath them. Gayle King faced the lens with steady calm. "We're back with Prince Harry," she said, voice smooth, eyes unshaken. "Let's continue." Harry leaned back, arms folded, jaw tight. The smirk he wore earlier was gone, replaced by something sharper, defiance laced with exhaustion. Gayle posed one final question, measured but firm. "Harry, after everything you've shared, do you believe you've built a life beyond the crown? Or are you still living in its shadow?" That was the spark. Harry shot to his feet, glare cutting through the silence. "I don't need this. Not from you. Not from anyone. I'm not your headline, Gayle. I'm done." Gasps rippled through the audience. Producers froze. Security shifted forward. Gayle didn't flinch. She set her papers down and met his anger with quiet steel. "Then walk. But remember, here you're not a prince. You're just a man who couldn't face the questions." Harry's face tightened, lips pressed thin. He yanked off his mic, dropped it on the chair, and stormed off. The studio doors slammed behind him, the sound ringing like a gavel. Gayle turned back to the audience, a faint, regretful smile softening her words. "Ladies and gentlemen, The hardest part of this job is separating the story people want to tell from the truth they run from. I'm sorry you had to see it end like this, but honesty is what we stand for." The applause came hesitant at first, then stronger. The screen faded to black. It was over. The prince had walked away. Gayle King had not. What about you? Do you think Harry stormed out because he couldn't take the heat? Or was the interview unfair from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories like this one. Until next time.